Welcome back, guys. Automotive Inc. here. Today we are going to go over why you should buy a Ford Bronco, or at least look at a Ford Bronco over a Jeep Wrangler. Now, I've had an opportunity to own many Jeeps in my time, from Grand Cherokees to Wranglers, and you know, Jeep is a lifestyle and there's a lot of a fan club for it. And before the Bronco came back, there wasn't much competition out there when it came to off-roading prowess. Now, I'm going to tell you though that I think the Ford Bronco is better than the Jeep, and I know I'm going to get a lot of haters on that, but that's okay, guys, because I've owned Jeeps, so I can talk freely about that. So when it comes to exterior styling, both the Jeep, both the Bronco are good looking trucks, cars, SUVs, whatever the heck you want to say. Both of them have an iconic look, so Ford did really good with this comeback. But Ford is doing better in the area where you may not think of anything else. Now, at the end of the day, they are both off-road-esque, and depending on your trim, you can go with a base Jeep Wrangler, 4-door, 2-door, whatever you want, hard top, soft tops. They're all kind of even keel there, although I do feel like Ford's hard top is built better and there's less wind noise, and that is a huge deal when you're out driving this vehicle. Now, another thing I'm going to tell you is the Ford Bronco has 3 more cubic feet in the 4-door model behind the rear seat, and that is huge. I'll tell you why. Because I actually took a house furnace, all the piping, the cold air return, 3 bags with our clothes, and tons of other tools, and we still had room behind the seat. And I tell you, there's no way that crap's going in a Jeep Wrangler. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not gonna haul a furnace in there. Well, it just came out that way because my big truck's in the shop, and they gave this as a loaner to me for several days. So cargo area, huge deal, because most of you guys that buy this truck, gals, people, whatever, you're not gonna be off-roading all the time. So even if you are an off-roader, you're gonna be using this as your daily driver and your family wagon. So we got a bigger cargo area. We got the unlock and stuff here. I like this. You have a built-in cooler back here, but this area is way bigger than a Jeep Wrangler. It's well insulated, nice floor, and this door goes out to 150 degrees if you want it to. So I like that feature and everything like that. Now, before we get in the car and talk about other things and do the driving stuff on this, go look at your Jeep Wrangler 4-door and look at how small the door is to get in. Now, you may not be thinking, who cares, because you don't get back there except for your dogs. But I mean, this C-pillar area right here, the way it's cut out and not cut into the seat, you don't have to climb up and around a big piece of metal to sit in here. And yes, this is set for me at 6'2", and yes, I can sit right there at 6'2", and that in a Jeep Wrangler is very hard for me to do without giving up a ton of real estate up front. When you get into the car in the driver's seat, also 2 bigger, wider door openings. Now, why the Ford Bronco shines, now this is the Big Bend trim. They no longer have the base trim. The Big Bend is now the base trim, and you get a lot of standard features in here, which are really good. And at the end of the day, guys, the last point I'm going to make, I'm not going to talk about it yet. I really want to, when it comes to Jeep versus the Bronco. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you know, the Jeep has a solid front axle, and I don't know about IFS. IFS, independent front suspension, for me, period, I like it better. Hummers are that way. I dig it. It's a better ride on the trail. You don't have to worry about that front pumpkin being lower than the rest and everything like that. Now, this truck exactly has a 373 in it and open diffs. So even though it's the base, even though it's not the most off-road-esque of the Broncos, it's very capable. We had lots of snow, and it did excellent. Now, when it comes to engine choices, Ford offers a handful. You can get a 2.3, which this is, and it's an excellent engine when it comes to power, and it's mated to a 10-speed automatic. Now, why is that better than the Jeep? Well, Jeep offers you an 8-speed, which is fine, and it does offer a manual, a 6-speed. Guess what the Bronco you can get? A 7-speed. So you get a rock crawl gear and then the remaining Ford gears for cruising. And I love a manual transmission, but a 7-speed, now that would be nice, especially if you're planning on using this as a trail vehicle. For me, I would just enjoy, I'd probably never use that gear, but I like the option of it. Now, Ford's engines, the 2.7 is also available if you want more juice. And then, of course, they have the big one, the 3-liter, and of course they offer the Raptor. So they offer even a bunch more trims, and the way you can kind of configure it. Price points similar, depending on your trim. It may be more expensive than the Jeep a little bit, but I can guarantee you this: unless you get a Rubicon, Jeeps under the Rubicon don't hold their value quite as well, and that's good that they do hold their value, but it's unfortunate that lower trims don't. And I think that overall that the Bronco base trims are going to hold their value just as well as a Jeep, but you know, that's another day, another dollar. So Ford offers you a 10-speed, Ford offers you a 7-speed manual, and the way they lay out their manual with the way their 4x4 systems engage, it's much more intuitive. So I do like that. Now, when it comes to towing, yeah, if you step all the way up to the big bad boy Jeep, I think the towing is comparable on the top trim of the Raptor and the biggest one, the Black Diamond, or whatever the top trim is on the Bronco. But really, for me, I'm not a trail guy. I would never want to bash this up, but I think this truck is more than capable, just like a Jeep in that. But at the end of the day, I still prefer the Bronco. After having it for a week, driven almost 650 miles on it, I enjoy the Bronco way better. Now, the cabin in the Bronco is just bigger. Bigger cargo area, bigger seating, more ergonomically. You know, I gotta say that when you're in a Jeep, and no matter what trim, it just drives down the road like this. And this vehicle is very, very well mannered. Period. Going across rough terrain, going across everything, it rides very, very good. When it comes to amenities and stuff, I think they're both comparable, but I'll tell you this much: Ford's cameras and screen are much bigger, because now you get this big screen standard. And even though the Ram's is more rectangular and roughly the same size, go crank on the cameras, you'll see the difference. So if you're going to be using cameras while you're rock climbing or off trailing or backing up in a supermarket, the Ford wins there, period. And with their connected nav, I've had so many Sync 4 systems, connected nav, and I've never had any issues other than once in a while having to reboot that system. Not glitchy, not laggy, and I really prefer the Sync 4. Now, another feature I want to talk about where the Bronco wins is, again, door openings, egress and ingress to the rear seat, and ingress and egress to the front seat. Because the truck overall is a smidge bigger all around, if you're planning on putting baby seats, like rear-facing baby seats in your Jeep, it's tight. You're going to give up a lot of real estate. The Ford does better. So, at the end of the day, there's very little to dislike about it. And if you're just such a Jeep loyal fan, do yourself a favor. Go take one for a spin. Especially find the trim that works for you best when it comes to how you're going to use it most, or if you are a pure dirt climbing one. Now, when it comes to driving dynamics, I already kind of mentioned this, guys, that when you're driving a Jeep, it always feels like you're driving a Jeep. Bouncy, kind of squirrely, especially if you put bigger tires on it and everything. And the driving dynamics of the Bronco are substantially better. It's a smooth ride, and you know, it's excellent on fuel economy for this engine. You know, it's been averaging about 22 in city driving with remote starts. Lots of remote starts because it's been cold here. And then on our overall trip, I think we got 23. And I will do a separate video on fuel economy. But very pleased with how, you know, this is a big toaster on wheels. It's a big square. And even though it has mild all-terrain tires on it, the driving dynamics with the fuel economy, that's pretty good. And matter of fact, if you can keep it under 65, you're probably going to push close to 25, 26 with the 2.3 and the 2.7. I think with the bigger one, you're probably going to be right on the window sticker. So that's pretty good. Now for the last reason why I would buy the Bronco over the Jeep. Again, Jeeps are awesome. I'm not bashing them. They're iconic. I think this Bronco is going to be way iconic. Is it better than the one from the 60s? Well, hell yeah, it is. I mean, it's got better tech, better ride, better everything, better dependability, better fuel economy. But is it more reliable? Well, that old thing only needed air, wind, and fire to basically make it work. So, you know, there wasn't much to it. So, yeah, I mean, sure. I guess But the thing by bringing this back looking like it does, it is an iconic look. But the last point I want to make is when you get in a Jeep and it feels small and it rides rough and you're not trailing and you and your lady or you and your significant other want to go have a nice night out, you go down there and it just looks like a Jeep. There's no debonair to it. And the Bronco, when it's not playing in the crap, is a nice vehicle to be in on a road trip. No wind noise, no rough ride, no squirreliness, no anything. But because the ingress is so easy to get in and out, the person wants to dress up and wear an outfit that's hard to climb up over the Jeep thing. You climb in the skinny door opening, especially if you take a couple with you. Everybody's having to squeeze in there, riding rough and all of that stuff. This thing just looks like it belongs in both elements. Now again, people will ding me for that, but at the end of the day, it would be my selling point to this vehicle is it looks nice, it looks classy, and then if you want to go bury it in the mud, you can do that. So those are my reasons why you should definitely check out the Bronco. I appreciate you guys all being here, and we'll catch you on the next one.